Back in the day, Carl Lewis was one of the fastest men on the earth. In fact, he's a 9-time Olympic gold medalist for his running. But he used to run races differently than most runners. And Scott Clary pointed this out in a newsletter that he put out a short while ago. What happens when most distance runners would run a race is that they would sprint in the beginning, get some distance, they would slow down in the middle, and then they'd sprint all out at the end to get across the finish line. Carl Lewis would run differently. He actually ran at one steady, consistent pace the entire time. Researchers found that he was probably running about 85% of his capacity, but he had a controlled rhythm and controlled breathing that allowed him to maintain that pace. So while he may have been behind in the beginning, by the end, he was strides farther than most of the other runners. So what does this mean for us? Well, consistency and discipline at 85% certainly beats overworking at 100%. And there are so many places in our lives that we're living right now that we're actually pushing ourselves at 100 when 85 could be better. Think of it this way. When we're at 100, we're overthinking, we're micromanaging, we're over-preparing for things. And that's tightening us up physically. We're under a lot of tension, a lot of stress, and that impacts us mentally. We're mentally fried. In fact, there's more opportunity for us to burn out if we're at 100. But if we were at 85%, then what we're doing is we're leaving some room for flexibility. We're able to adapt more. There's more time and more space to think, respond rather than react. It's a controlled, sustainable intensity. And honestly, there's no added value from going to 85 to 100. In fact, there's incremental declines in performance when you actually make that leap from 85 to 100. So in our business, instead of, let's say, taking a late call or a text or an email from a client, having to respond right then and there, why don't we dedicate time at some other point when we're free to actually respond? Because we all know that there's no emergencies in our business, right? Or instead of taking that late phone call, okay, and interrupting and trying to get everything done for the day, we set boundaries and we set a time where we're actually going to shut that down and actually spend time with our family. Or maybe we continually revise a CMA or continually rewrite a contract, just trying to get that perfect combination, that perfect number, instead of just doing it and sending it out. We need to stop chasing perfection. If I were driving a car on the highway and I put the gas pedal to the floor, the entire time I was driving, that car is going to basically probably break down and explode at some point. Whereas if I was actually steady and at consistent speed, that car is going to last a lot longer. So take permission from a 9-time winning gold medalist, okay? There's no reason to go all out at 100. And this is probably the only time in your life where 85 is greater than 100.